In 1993, a reigning Formula One world champion arrived in American IndyCar racing with a car nobody had built around him before, driving for a team that had never won the championship. Nigel Mansell showed up at Surfers Paradise in a Lola T93/00, a low-slung British-built machine powered by a turbocharged Ford-Cosworth V8, and the American establishment saw a European newcomer who did not understand their ovals, their restarts, or their 500-mile races. They called him a rookie. Technically, they were right, but they were about to discover the most dangerous kind of newcomer, a world champion who already knew how to win. On March 21st, Mansell took the Lola to victory in his very first kart race. By September, he had won 5 races and taken the IndyCar World Championship by 8 points. This is the story of the Lola T93/00. Nigel Ernest James Mansell did not arrive in America as an unknown. The Englishman from Birmingham had spent more than a decade fighting through Formula One, enduring crashes, mechanical failures, broken relationships with teams, and years of coming close without taking the championship. In 1992, everything finally came together. Driving the Williams FW14B, Mansell dominated Formula One. He won 9 of the 16 World Championship races and secured the title before the season had even finished. Then he left. That decision made the 1993 American racing season extraordinary before a wheel had turned. Mansell joined Newman/Haas Racing, the team founded by actor and racing enthusiast Paul Newman and businessman Carl Haas. His teammate was not some anonymous veteran. It was Mario Andretti, the 1978 Formula One world champion and one of America's most respected racing drivers. Kart was not simply Formula One with different tracks. The championship mixed permanent road circuits, temporary street circuits, short ovals, and enormous superspeedways. Cars ran on methanol rather than Formula One's gasoline, and oval racing demanded a different relationship with traffic, slipstreaming, banking, and aerodynamic balance. What the American establishment did not know was that Mansell had spent his entire career learning how to adapt to machinery at enormous speed. The Lola T93/00 would give him the weapon. Mansell would provide the violence. At the Surfers Paradise Street Circuit in Australia, the combination announced itself immediately. Mansell won his first kart race on debut, becoming the first driver to achieve victory on his first start. The newcomer had arrived. The newcomer had won. The Lola T93/00 was not an experimental curiosity. It was an evolution of Lola's successful T92/00, refined for the brutal variety of the 1993 kart calendar. Lola Cars was a British constructor that had built its reputation by supplying competitive racing machinery rather than operating with the enormous resources of a Ferrari-style factory racing empire. The T93/00 was compact, purposeful, and almost severe in appearance. Its carbon fiber monocoque formed the central safety cell around the driver. Double wishbone suspension controlled each corner, with the springs mounted inside the bodywork rather than exposed directly at the wheels. The nose was long and narrow, while the front wing central section rose toward it in a distinctive shape. The car measured roughly 4.98 meters long, 2.03 meters wide, and just 0.94 meters high, with a 3.048 meter wheelbase. It was a purpose-built weapon designed to change character depending on the circuit. At road courses and street circuits, the team could use more aerodynamic downforce. At the enormous superspeedways, the car needed to generate less drag so it could cut through the air at more than 200 miles per hour. That meant the same basic machine had to behave like 2 different cars. One was built to turn, the other was built to survive. And that was the genius of the T93/00. It did not need to reinvent racing. It needed to do many things extremely well. The decision to bring Mansell to America was not a publicity stunt. Newman/Haas Racing had serious ambitions. Carl Haas understood American open-wheel racing. Paul Newman brought money, celebrity, and an unusual personal commitment to the sport. The team already knew how to operate at the highest level. Mario Gabriele Andretti had grown up in Italy before his family moved to America, and he had become one of the most versatile drivers in history. He had won the Indianapolis 500, the Daytona 500, the 12 Hours of Sebring, and the 1978 Formula One World Championship. Now he was sharing a garage with the reigning F1 champion. Mansell had to learn the strange physics of oval racing, while the team had to learn how to extract performance from a driver accustomed to Formula One's road racing environment. He was enormous by modern racing standards and physically uncomfortable in the cramped IndyCar. He also had to adjust to racing without the sophisticated electronic aids and active suspension that had helped define the Williams he had just driven. The Lola was much more mechanical, much more physical, much more dangerous. The Newman/Haas operation had already demonstrated that the Ford-Cosworth XB engine could work effectively with Lola's chassis after Michael Andretti's 5 wins in 1992. That previous experience became the foundation. The team did not start from zero. It started with a proven package and put the most aggressive driver in Formula One on top of it. Behind Mansell's shoulders sat one of the defining engines of American open-wheel racing. The Ford-Cosworth XB was a 2.65-liter turbocharged V8, 8 cylinders, turbocharging, methanol fuel, 6-speed manual transmission. That combination gave the Lola the muscle required for everything from tight street circuits to the vast Michigan International Speedway. Instead of relying only on the engine's natural ability to draw air into its cylinders, the turbocharger forced additional air into them. More air allowed more fuel to be burned, and more fuel and air meant more power. But turbo power came with a price. Throttle response could be abrupt. Heat was a constant enemy, and keeping the engine alive while extracting maximum performance required careful control. For Ford-powered versions, the engine cover was designed with a lower profile, helping the airflow over and around the rear of the car. The car's carbon fiber construction kept the chassis extremely stiff while providing the structural protection necessary for a driver traveling at extraordinary speeds. Instead of putting the springs directly beside the wheels, Lola placed the springing components inside the bodywork. The wheels could move over bumps and curbs while the aerodynamic surfaces remained relatively clean. It was not magic, it was engineering discipline. The difference was that every solution had to work across radically different circuits. At a street circuit, Mansell needed grip. At Indianapolis, he needed stability. At Michigan, he needed low drag. At Nazareth, he needed a car that could rotate into the corners without destroying its tires. One car, 16 races, 4 different types of battlefield. The biggest technical challenge was not horsepower, it was aerodynamic compromise. A road course car wants downforce, which is aerodynamic force pushing the car into the track, allowing it to corner faster. But downforce creates drag. At a circuit like Michigan, drag was the enemy. The T9300 could therefore be configured for different jobs. Lola offered different aerodynamic and suspension arrangements, including low-drag configurations for the massive superspeedways. Think of it as the difference between a knife and a shovel. One is designed to cut through resistance. The other is designed to push into it. The T9300 had to become the knife. At Indianapolis, Mansell qualified 8th at 220.255 miles per hour and spent 200 laps fighting through one of the most unforgiving races on the calendar. He eventually finished 3rd, only 4.237 seconds behind winner Emerson Fittipaldi. It was a remarkable result, but it was also a warning. Mansell was learning, and the Americans were learning that he could learn quickly. Fittipaldi won the Indianapolis 500 in a Penske PC22. Arie Luyendyk finished 2nd in another Lola T9300. Mansell was 3rd. The Lola was already proving that it belonged at the front of the most important race in American open-wheel racing. Mansell's season did not become dominant through one miracle afternoon. It accumulated. After his victory at Surfers Paradise, he finished third at Long Beach. He took third at Indianapolis. Then came Milwaukee. On June 6th, Mansell won the Miller Genuine Draft 200 at the Milwaukee Mile. The pattern was forming. He could win on street circuits. He could finish strongly at Indianapolis. Now he could win on an oval. Then came Michigan. The Marlboro 500 was one of the fastest events of the entire season, held on the enormous 2-mile oval where speed became almost physical violence. Mansell started second. Mario Andretti was on pole. The two Newman/Haas Lolas ran together at the front, and Mansell won. He completed all 250 laps in 2 hours, 39 minutes, 24.131 seconds, beating his own teammate Mario Andretti by 9.434 seconds. The victory was more than another trophy. It demonstrated that the supposedly inexperienced European could handle one of America's fastest ovals. 1 week later, the same driver won again at New Hampshire. Then, after another difficult stretch, Mansell won at Nazareth. 5 victories, 3 poles. A championship campaign that was beginning to look deliberate rather than accidental. Emerson Fittipaldi remained dangerous. Paul Tracy was fast. The American Series had plenty of experienced drivers who knew exactly how to exploit a mistake. Mansell had become the hunted. The championship was no longer a novelty. Mansell's results had made that impossible. Between those victories came podium finishes that kept his points total alive, even when the Lola was not perfect. The Toronto race was one of the darker moments. Mansell suffered 2 crashes during the sessions before the race, and during the event, a wastegate failure eventually ended his run after 60 laps. The failure was especially frustrating because it came during a season in which mechanical consistency had been one of the Lola's greatest strengths. That was the reality of kart. A championship could disappear because of a component worth very little compared with the value of the entire car. Then came the final stretch. At Vancouver, Al Unser Jr. took the Lola T93 00 to victory. At Mid-Ohio, Emerson Fittipaldi won for Penske. The establishment was fighting back. Mansell's advantage was no longer theoretical. It was mathematical, and mathematics has no sympathy. By the time the championship reached its final stages, the man who had entered the season as an outsider had become the driver everyone else had to beat. By the end of 1993, the championship had become a battle between 2 world champions. Mansell had 191 points. Emerson Fittipaldi had 183. 8 points separated them. Fittipaldi was no ordinary challenger. The Brazilian had won 2 Formula One World Championships in 1972 and 1974. He had then rebuilt his career in American racing and was already one of kart's established stars. He understood the series. He understood Indianapolis. He understood the ovals. And he was driving for Team Penske, one of the most powerful organizations in the sport. Mansell had the advantage, but 8 points was not safety. It was a thin layer of ice. The final race at Laguna Seca would decide everything. The Lola T93 had carried Mansell through Australia, Phoenix, Long Beach, Indianapolis, Milwaukee, Detroit, Portland, Cleveland, Toronto, Michigan, New Hampshire, Road America, Vancouver, Mid-Ohio, and Nazareth. Now it had to carry him one final time. Championships are not awarded for the best opening. They are awarded for surviving the entire campaign. The establishment had spent months expecting the European newcomer to eventually crack. Now they needed him to crack. At Laguna Seca, Mansell eventually retired after 71 laps following an accident. He finished 23rd. The championship therefore came down to everything that had happened before that moment. 5 wins, 3 poles, a 3rd place at Indianapolis, victories on ovals and street circuits. The points accumulated through the races where he did not win. The newcomer had built enough of a cushion to survive the final disaster, and that was the real achievement. The final race was not the triumphant procession that history sometimes makes it sound like. Mansell crashed. He completed only 71 laps. The Lola that had carried him to 5 victories could not carry him across the final finish line. And yet, the championship was already his. The title had been constructed over 15 rounds of pressure. He had survived the learning curve. He had survived Indianapolis. He had survived high-speed ovals. He had survived mechanical failures. He had survived the physical punishment of a car designed for a completely different racing culture. And he had built an 8-point advantage over a 2-time Formula One world champion driving for Penske. A second place here, a third there, a victory when the opportunity appeared. That is how championships are really built, not through one perfect race, through refusing to surrender when the perfect race never comes. When the final standings were confirmed, Nigel Mansell stood first with 191 points. Emerson Fittipaldi was second with 183, 8 points. The newcomer had won. The reigning Formula One champion had become the reigning American open-wheel champion too. And nobody had ever done exactly that before. On March 21, 1993, Nigel Mansell stood on the grid at Surfers Paradise as a kart newcomer. The Lola T93 sat beneath him, its Ford-Cosworth turbocharged V8 waiting behind his shoulders. There were 16 races ahead. He won the first. At Phoenix, Mario Andretti took the Lola to victory. At Indianapolis, the T93 filled second, third, fourth, and fifth places among the leading finishers, with Arie Luyendyk second, Mansell third, Raoul Boesel fourth, and Andretti fifth. The car had become one of the defining chassis of the entire field. Then Mansell returned to winning: Milwaukee, Michigan, New Hampshire, Nazareth. 5 victories, 3 poles, 191 championship points, and at the end of the season, an 8-point margin over Emerson Fittipaldi. The Lola T93 had done exactly what it was designed to do. It had turned engineering flexibility into results. It could run high downforce on a street circuit, then be transformed into a low-drag missile for a superspeedway. Its carbon fiber monocoque protected the driver while giving the suspension a rigid foundation. Its Ford-Cosworth XB turbocharged V8 provided the power, and the Newman/Haas engineers turned that power into a championship-winning package. But the numbers only tell part of the story. The human achievement was even stranger. Mansell had entered America carrying a reputation built in Formula One. He had won the 1992 World Championship with Williams. Then he entered kart and had to learn everything again. He learned how the car moved in traffic. He learned how the oval banking changed the load on the tires. He learned how to manage fuel. He learned how to race wheel to wheel at speeds that made even small mistakes catastrophic. And he did it while driving beside Mario Andretti, one of the most accomplished drivers America had ever produced. Andretti himself won at Phoenix in the same Lola. That victory would be his final IndyCar win. The T93 second influence spread beyond one team. Lola chassis won 8 kart races in 1993. Mansell took 5, Andretti took 1, Danny Sullivan took 1, Al Unser Jr. took 1. The car was everywhere. Mansell became the first driver to hold the Formula One World Championship and the IndyCar World Championship simultaneously. No driver had done it before, and no driver has repeated that exact feat since. The season was physically punishing. Mansell suffered crashes, endured failures, and finished the year with an accident at Laguna Seca rather than a ceremonial victory lap. His 1994 campaign would be far less successful, ending 8th in the championship with 88 points. The Lola T93 itself would soon become history too. The T9400 followed it. The kart world changed, new generations of chassis arrived, new drivers became champions, but the basic lesson remained. A racing car does not need to come from the richest factory. It needs to be designed for the job, developed intelligently, and placed in the hands of someone capable of exploiting every advantage. The T93 did exactly that. It was not the largest car company in the paddock. It did not have Ferrari's mythology. It did not have Penske's enormous American racing machine behind it. It was a British Lola, refined through experience and developed into a versatile weapon. And then Nigel Mansell climbed into it. The people who ruled Formula One had already learned that Mansell was a champion. The people who ruled American racing initially saw a newcomer. They treated the European as someone who had to learn their sport. Then he took their title. And that is why the 1993 Lola T93 00 matters. It was not simply the car that carried Nigel Mansell to 5 victories. It was the machine that allowed a reigning Formula One champion to cross an ocean, enter an unfamiliar championship, learn an entirely different form of racing, and become champion again in the same year. The establishment had watched, and by the time they understood what they were looking at, the title was already gone. If you enjoyed this story, there are plenty more like it on the channel. Hit subscribe and I will make it worth your time.